Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live and my name is Chandrakant. Today I would like to start our discussion around how much socializing we should do as chief executives, and especially when the environment is changing completely. Digital media is becoming the means of doing business, and therefore there is a need to learn new skills. To have this discussion, I will be joined by a very famous personality. He is going to join us from UK, and he's a global guru, also CEO of a very large consulting company headquartered in UK and in Singapore. Before we start our discussion, I must tell you that we have this new feature. There is a QR code right on the screen, and you can scan this QR code from your mobile phones, iPhone or Android phones, and you will get connected to our channel instantly. So friends, without further ado, let us start our discussion. Welcome back, friends, and let me introduce our guest who's in our studios today, Mr. Jeremy Blaine. He's joining us from UK, and we have a very interesting subject to discuss. It's about the executive leadership. So, Jeremy, why don't you start talking by giving a little introduction, and I can then post a question?
Sure. Well, as we emerge from the pandemic, as we emerge from years of transformation, there is a greater need to get out there as individuals as much as organizations. And there is a big gap in some organizations between the need for that and the level of capability that some executive leaders at the very top have in terms of socializing their own brand. So their personal brand, but also supporting the business brand, as well as then supporting the rest of the organization. So it's such a big part of going to market at the moment is to be aware and be out there so that you're considered more as a thought leader, a knowledge leader, as much as a provider.
Yes, in fact, what I've also noticed is that some of these leaders are very shy, and especially when everything is moved to the digital platform now. And that means all the leaders must reinvent themselves in the digital space. So that means they will have to spend more time here in this space. They have to become more vocal. What is your opinion? How much time they should spend per day, or is there some sort of a matrix which is available based on your understanding?
Well, I'm not sure it's about quantity or duration. I think it's more about quality. And you're absolutely right. Some are sort of hiding behind their desk. Some aren't going here because there's a fear. There is a fear of losing face. There's a pride element because some don't have the capability. Many executive leaders haven't had the benefit of learning and development behind this because it's not something that they've been focused on, particularly around executive leadership development, as we both know. Now, it's focused on other things. But as we're into the 2020s and beyond, and we're in Industry 4.0, we're fueled by digital, then it's becoming more important. And of course, what's becoming even more important in parallel with that is the fact that we need to put faces to names. So having a very strong personal brand is really important, but also kind of the brand of your organization and the brand voice of your organization needs to be louder because you're in a much more crowded, competitive space. So it's getting those things right, and it's understanding that executive leaders can play just as big a role as marketing and sales in driving the awareness, the consideration of those prospects or even existing customers to stay with the organization and to learn more. And particularly for executive leaders to step up beyond that to become an industry voice. So providing insight, providing data that can help their customers or their prospects with their own strategies. They can start talking at industry, at functional level, at all kinds of levels, sort of beyond just the products and services that they offer, which is really the point. So there's so much that's growing up out there in terms of organizations that are enabling this either through technology or through learning and development for the teams as well as their leaders. But it's a bigger gap at leadership level, interestingly. It's the rest of the teams in the organization who are becoming far more savvy from a social media perspective and a social branding perspective.
I think this is absolutely makes a lot of sense. And when it comes to about building your brand, I mean, the brand can be built around a product or a services, but there could be an element of your personal name, you know, for example, your Jeremy Blaine. So there must be a Jeremy Blaine brand. For me, it should be Chandrakant as a brand. So I think it's an overall brand that needs to be built. And I think the social media platform offers a great opportunity to leverage that. There is an opportunity. There are so many tools available. So from your point of view, Jeremy, please tell us, you know, people normally like to talk about one particular subject. Say, for example, if somebody is saying, hey, I want to talk about mental health, you know, how long they can continue, or is there a diversification required in order to build a brand? What is your opinion on this?
Well, you know, it's a really interesting one that we've talked before about how leadership is changing as well. And it is changing in terms of perception as well. So you need a blend. You need a blend of the more human, personal side and stories, as well as just kind of banging on around your brand, your credibility, the data that you have, and so on. So it's being prepared to let the barriers down a little bit and start to think about, how do I grow awareness about myself as an individual and as an experienced leader, as well as then driving consideration of what we can offer as an organization. So it's starting to actually blend and put in the hands of individuals the ability to do the marketing and sales cycle themselves in many ways, because they're starting to bring people into it. So that kind of alignment is really key. And you see leaders in organizations like Netflix, Spotify, Sky, Spinfluence. They're all doing this. They're doing much more. And that includes how they're doing it. Also, again, beyond content, it's how you deliver it. So, for example, Bloomberg use Instagram Live a lot to get news out there and to start to attract a new generation, for example. The biggest platform, of course, from a business perspective is LinkedIn. And many leaders who are now actively using that are using a lot of the tools around it to start to drive that information. They're not just posting. They're not just sharing stories in the traditional way through a post or an article. They're actually shooting short videos. They're doing LinkedIn Live. They're doing Clubhouse. They're doing all of these kind of things. And they're becoming more socialized out there in the industry. And that is where many organizations need to be, never mind the individuals in them, but organizations need to understand how they start to do this. But if you get really good individuals at senior level who are confident, who are capable, and who have a strong voice at industry level, then the trickle down effect to the rest of the organization is so strong. And you see that in some of the organizations like Basecamp, even like Slack and how they talk about it, Stripe, for example, as well, you know, very, very vocal at leadership level. And in fact, their focus on social platforming to drive their message, talking about Stripe, you know, drove kind of a 10 times growth in their company between 2017 and 2020, which is kind of incredible, really. So it pays dividends. But the very best, as I said, get that blend right between the human touch and the human stories and the little bit of the personal piece, as well as actually the insights, the data, and the services and products.
Absolutely, Jeremy. In fact, you're also a best-selling author, so your experience value a lot, and you have been a global guru. What I feel is that when the world really opens up after the COVID, it will not be same as we knew it. It will be totally different. So there are a lot of leaders who are already doing a lot of work in the background. You know, somebody is going to space, somebody is finding new technologies.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, from your point of view, what is your sort of a crash course to basically propel your brand for the chief executive, what they should do immediately now?
Yes, well, it's actually unlearning old habits and always doing things and relearning how to do it. And in fact, you and I are both active on LinkedIn, but I've just been through a 4-week tune-up on LinkedIn, and I learned more than I thought. He said, that doesn't sound very good, does it? But, I thought I knew LinkedIn. You know how active I am on social media. But I'd started to create certain bad habits as well. And I wasn't getting too much of the personal touch in there, as I talked about. So it really helped me to get rid of some old habits and relearn again and start thinking about what do I do and the sort of the skills that are there. So that socialized presence, the use of data, how to tell good, compelling stories, the simple things on LinkedIn, like, starting with a big question that relates to a hot topic, perhaps in your industry, or something that we're going through individually as leaders. It's been a tough year for our organizations. How has your leadership been? How are you feeling as a leader? If it's anything like me, this is how I've been feeling and this is how I've been dealing with it. Stories like that, simple stories like that about me as an executive leader, how I've been through it, drive that level of empathy and bring people along. And you'll see, and you'll have noted as well, is that when you do those kind of things on LinkedIn, the engagement can often be a lot higher than some of the business engagements. And that's why you need the blend on it. So for me, it's all about, kind of, as we may have talked about before, networking to get work. It's adopting principles that allow you to become socially excellent in what you do and understanding the best platforms for your organization. So whether you're in B2B, B2E, B2C, or you've got a mix of these things, you've got to understand where your audience is now, but also where your audience for tomorrow is right now and how you modify your message. And that's exactly what Bloomberg did, actually. And it's also what Spotify are doing now. They have a very millennial heavy and millennial centric audience. But what they've done is they've started to bring in reading, podcasts, audiobooks to attract a much broader demographic so it can fuel their next level of growth. So that means that they're changing the way that their industry voice is out there. Their leaders are talking differently on platforms like even LinkedIn. And they're driving a very personalized approach, which attracts people like me of our generation, of Generation X. So actually it's quite a lot that you can do. And one of the best things to actually look is get out in your industry, look at some of the leaders out there. Who are the best leaders on social media and what are they doing? And then start to learn from them.
I think the inspiration point that you're making, that everybody needs an inspiration, because people, even though you are a chief executive, may not know everything. And to diversify your communication, you need to get inspired. And I think this is the best way to do that. Meet as many people as you can on daily basis on the social media, join a podcast, join the webinars, present as a keynote speaker. I think these are some of the tricks that everyone should follow.
Yeah.
And if they are not doing it, they must start doing it, because this is the future. So Jeremy, thank you so much for finding time and talking to us. It has been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much again for this, CK. Really appreciate it.
So we will catch up in the next one. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye for today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.